It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Baltimore Orioles. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Tuesday evening to you, wherever you may be. Dodgers at home, home sweet home. And the first good news they got today, the Messrs. Clayton Kershaw, Kenley Jansen, and Corey Seager, by the players' vote, have been selected to go to the All-Star game. Of course, other good news here at home, Dodgers have a current 5-game winning streak. They've won 18 of the last 21 and 10 straight at Dodger Stadium, despite the fact they're still 5 games behind the Giants, who play Colorado tonight, and it'll be Madison Bumgarner on the mound. As far as the Dodgers are concerned, they're trying to increase their 5-game winning streak. Baltimore has a 5-game losing streak. On the hill for the O's, that would be Chris Tillman, local boy born in Anaheim and pitching exceptionally well. He is 10-2. A couple of years ago, he was 11-3 at the All-Star break. Going up against him, Kenta Maeda with a record of 7-5. He's won 4 and lost 2 in his last 7 starts. Tomorrow, the concluding game, 12-10, Kevin Gausman and Bud Norris. So those are the stories before the game itself. Pull up a chair. We've got a good one coming up and a whole lot more right after this. evening to you, wherever you may be. We're at Dodger Stadium on Korean night. And earlier, before the start of the game, the Korean Consulate General, Mr. Ki-Chu Lee, and the Director of Korean Tourism, Mr. Tae Shi, presented an award to Hanjin Ryu called the Excellence in Sports Award on behalf of the Korean government. For Hanjin, an outstanding ambassador of the Korean culture through the game of baseball, a fitting award for him after a beautiful pregame show put on by the Koreans. Right now, let's take a look at the lineup for the Baltimore Orioles. Adam Jones leading off in center field. Hyun-Soo Kim, another Korean, will be in left field. Manny Machado will be at third base. Chris Davis at first. Mark Trumbo in right field. Matt Wieters, the catcher. Jonathan Scoop at second base. J.J. Hardy at short. And Chris Tillman on the mound. On the mound for the Dodgers, Kenta Maeda in his 17th start with a record of 7-5. He is 4-2, however, in his last 7 starts. And, of course, what the Dodgers want from him is some innings. First of all, the Dodgers are getting victories, but they are paying a price. You know, Urias started last night. He worked 3 innings. McCarthy went 5 innings. Before him, Kazmir went 6. Norris went 6. But it's a 9-inning game. So the Dodgers have to get some innings from starting pitchers. Here's Adam Lamarck Jones, young fella out of San Diego, outstanding talent, and takes a strike in the count 0-1. Adam with 2 sons, Axel and August, so he likes that A. He's an all-star several times, 2009, and then from 11 through last year. Adam takes a pitch high, and the count 1-1 strike. Adam is 6'2", 215 pounds. Growing up in San Diego, he idolized Tony Gwynn. In fact, he was all set to play for Tony at San Diego State, but instead he was signed. High fly ball into left center. Trace Thompson is there waiting and puts it away. So 1 down, and let's take a look at the Dodgers with the leather right now. Gonzalez and Utley on one side, Seager and Taylor playing at third, so they give Justin Turner a night off, with Kendrick, Thompson, and Puig in the outfield, Randall behind the plate. So with 1 away, here comes Hyun-Soo Kim playing left field, appropriately enough, on Korean night. Hyun-Soo Kim, 6'2" and 210 pounds. Signed in December of last year, and the left-hand batter takes a strike, and the count 0-1. He competed for the South Korean national baseball team in the 2008 Olympic Games, and they won the gold medal in that tournament. He signed for 2 years with Baltimore. The next pitch, foul back, and it's a no-ball 2-strike count. Spent 10 years with the Doosan Bears in Korea, facing Kenta Maeda. He was fortunate. The Pirates infielder Jung-Ho Kang is a dear friend of his, and they were together in spring training, and Kang really taught him the ropes. Strike 2 pitch on the way. Kim backs away. It's down in at the ankles. 1-2 the count. So Kenta Maeda trying to give the Dodgers what they need. They have won 5 straight. The bullpen could certainly do for a night off. 1-2 pitch on the way, high with a fastball, and the count 2-2. It's a beautiful night, 73 degrees. Dodgers have won 10 straight at home. They have a 5-game winning streak right now. And the 2-2 pitch is lined down the left field line, heading for the box seat, and it's going to bang off the wall. Into second base goes Kim with a stand-up double. So Maeda gives up the double to Kim, and the batter now will be Manny Machado.
Baseman number 13, Manny Machado.
For Kim, who was hitting .341, he now has 10 doubles and 3 home runs. No doubt about it, it carried so far. There was a split second where you thought it might even get into the first row of the box seats for a home run. Instead, a long double, and here's Machado. Maeda checking to see where Utley is, looking for the positions. Utley, of course, going to be nosing around to try and cut down Kim's lead. Now Maeda set at the belt. Kenta delivers, and the first pitch hit to deep right center. Thompson on the run and leaps up, makes a circus catch. Kim on his way to third, gets back to second. What a play by Trayce Thompson. Whoa. You talk about a paint scraper. Thompson was scraping up against that, and a great play. So Thompson slowly walking back. Yasiel Puig stayed clear, and Thompson staggered, stayed on his feet, and then got the ball back to the infield. So a marvelous play by Trayce. It was not going to be a home run, but it was going to be high off the right center field wall. He even got a little applause from Kenta Maeda. So for the Dodgers, they are so fortunate. They have Jock Peterson down, and they put Thompson out there, and he covers great ground. Now Chris Davis, left-hand batter with 21 home runs. He has 10 home runs, 27 RBIs in the last 25 games. So the left-hand hitter checks in. Maeda looks back at Kim, who has a pretty good lead. And the pitch to Davis, that's taken for a strike, and the count 0-1. Mike DeMuro is the plate umpire. And it's interesting, he is the son of a great umpire, Lou DeMuro, and we're playing the Baltimore Orioles. His father was the umpire when Jim Palmer pitched a no-hitter, and Jim is here broadcasting the game back to Baltimore. Davis swings a high foul off third and well out of play. We might talk occasionally about that 1966 World Series. We mentioned Jim Palmer. You know, he was the final hitter that Koufax ever struck out in the 5th inning of Game 2 in the '66 World Series, and that was after Willie Davis, the Dodger center fielder, made 3 errors on 2 batters in 1 inning. There's Jim on the left, Gary Thorne on the right, if you're watching on television. Palmer, Hall of Fame pitcher. 0-2 the count to Chris Davis. Maeda set at the belt. Utley right behind the runner, and the pitch inside of the knuckles. Now it's Seager over there. So with left-hand hitters coming up for Machado, who is a marvelous hitter, he was robbed of 2 hits yesterday and now robbed of a 3rd. So Machado could easily be 3 for 5. Instead, he is 0 for 5 thanks to a couple of brilliant plays. 1-2 the count to Chris Davis. Maeda long look into Grandal, and Davis backs out. In that game where Willie Davis made 3 errors in 1 inning, Palmer and Baltimore won that game 6-0, beating Sandy Koufax. The 1-2 pitch on the way, checked, and it's in the dirt. Kicks off to the left. On his way to third, in there safely is Kim. So I assume wild pitch to advance Kim to third. So Davis now trying to pick him up. Grandal down on both knees trying to block it, but it kicked away. And now Grandal might have equipment problems. He does. The strap on the mask apparently coming loose, so timeout for the moment. We can tell you that was Maeda's 3rd wild pitch. So Grandal trying to mend the matter around the mask, and now slowly coming back. You know, Jim Palmer, who won the first and last World Series game he ever pitched, 17 years apart. His first World Series game was the shutout against Koufax. His final was 17 years later. He came out of the bullpen to help Baltimore, and he beat Steve Carlton. 2-2 pitch on the way, swung on and fouled back. So Kim doubled. He's at third on a wild pitch. A magnificent defensive play by Trayce Thompson has kept Baltimore from getting on the board. Up north, they're just starting, the Rockies and the Giants, Tyler Chatwood and Madison Bumgarner. Now the 2-2 pitch coming up. Maeda ready and deal, swung on and missed. High fastball, might have been out of the strike zone. But it's Thompson, the man of the moment. That catch is worth another look. Racing back to his left, leaping, spearing the ball just as his shoulder hit the wall, spinning around but did not go down. No score. No score in the ball game. Dodgers saved on that play by Trayce Thompson. Now here's their lineup. Chase Utley at second base, Corey Seager at short, Trayce Thompson in center, Adrian Gonzalez at first, Yasiel Puig in right, Yasmani Grandal behind the plate, Howie Kendrick in left, Chris Taylor at third, Kenta Maeda the pitcher. On the mound, a brilliant young man out of Anaheim, lived in Fountain Valley as well. He was originally a second-round pick by the Mariners, and he's been a mainstay of the Baltimore staff. He is 10-2. Last year, he was 11-3 at the All-Star break. So Chris Tillman is a big man, 6'5", a good 200 pounds, working on Chase Utley. And the first pitch in for a strike at the knees, and the count 0-1. Utley just rolling along, 3 for 5 with 2 RBIs last night, right around 260 most of the year, with 5 home runs, 27 runs batted in. Tillman ready, and his strike one pitch, and that's a fastball away, and the count 1-1. So Utley trying to get something started, and we'll watch Chris Tillman. Tillman, among other things, can be wild. That's been his big problem, averaging almost 9 walks. Right-handed deals, and he's low, and a 2-1 count. When he has the count his way, no balls and 2 strikes, he does not take advantage of it. He's given up 11 hits. That's the 3rd highest number of American League pitchers, and he has 7 wild pitches. Nevertheless, he's 10-2. 2-1 pitch on the way. Tillman cranks it up, and there's a one-hopper into shallow right field. Scope has it, throws to first in time for the out. So with that shift on, that was a clear base hit to right field, except the second baseman was out there. So 1 down, and here's an all-star, Corey Seager. Seager, remarkable when you add it up. He has 100 hits, 33 to left and 33 to right and 34 to center. Pretty hard to defend him. They still, even though he does hit to all fields, they load up the right side. So Tillman gets a break on the out to Utley, and Seager checking in. Corey with a 17-game hitting streak promptly makes it 18. A base hit down the left field line. Over to get it is Hyun-Soo Kim. The throw to second base is not in time. And Seager has a double and an 18-game hitting streak. For Corey, his 21st double. So they load up the right side and he doubles to left. And the batter will be Trayce Thompson. So Seager just goes after a pitch down and away and cranks out the double. Trayce Thompson coming up, trying to pick him up. Seager now with an 18-game streak. There are several fellas who have been streaky. Peter Burgos has hit in 13 straight. Coco Crisp 11. Albert Pujols 10. So a runner at second, one out. Here's Thompson. Trayce has a look at a strike and the count 0-1. The longest hitting streaks of the year as we concentrate on Seager. Jackie Bradley Jr. of Boston, he had a 29-game streak. Xavier Bogaerts of Boston had a 26-game streak. Eric Hosmer of Kansas City 18, and now Corey at 18. Ground foul outside of third. By the way, in case you would match it up, talking about streaks, well, on this day in 1941, Joe DiMaggio had a base hit, and that made it 46 consecutive games in which Joe D had a base hit. Oh, 0-2 the count. Tillman back with a fastball away, backhanded by Wieters. A couple of big men there, as big a batter as you'll see around, with Tillman on the mound and Wieters behind the plate. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Tillman, 28 years old, and his 1-2 pitch on the way, grounded to third. Machado backs up for a hop, then fires to first with the ball hit ahead of him. Seager had nowhere to go. So 2 down in the first inning, and the batter will be Adrian Gonzalez. Adrian Gonzalez has an 8-game hitting streak. He's hit almost .325 in the last 10 home games. For the year, hitting .277, 6 home runs, 39 runs batted in. So Gonzalez trying to pick up Seager. 2 down, first inning, no score. Each team with a double. The great play by Thompson prevented Baltimore from cashing in their double. A flare into left field. That is going to drop for a base hit. Here comes Seager. The throw to the plate is not in time, and it's 1-0 Dodgers. So Seager doubles, Adrian picked him up, and the Dodgers on their way with a 1-0 lead. You know, outside of the 1966 World Series, Baltimore has never won a game here at Dodger Stadium. It's not that many. They've only played 4, and yet the Dodgers have beaten them all 4 times. So Gonzalez with the base hit. Dodgers lead 1-0. And here is Yasiel Puig. Interesting thing that happened last night. That was in the second inning. Puig homered, and then Grandal homered. There are 3 sets of Cuban-born players who have hit back-to-back home runs. Puig takes low and inside ball 1. Going way back 45 years ago, Tony Oliva and Leo Cardenas. 1993, Rafael Palmeiro and Jose Canseco. And then last night, Puig and Grandal. Here's the 1-0 pitch on the way. That's low again. So Puig with the count his way, 2 balls and no strikes. With his little 6-game hitting streak, as Corey Seager burned a kneecap sliding into second base. You forget all about that, but every time you slide, you give up a little skin. Now the 2-0 pitch on the way. Puig lifts it back to first, slicing foul, and it will go out of play. Yasiel Puig hitting .444 during his 6-game hitting streak. And since he came off the disabled list, that's 13 games, he's hit .381. The Yasiel with a 2-1 count. Gonzalez at first. Dodgers lead 1-0, first inning. Tillman set, ready. And his 2-1 pitch, fastball hit in the air down the right field line. That's going to go slicing foul and back into the lower deck. So 2-2 the count. Tillman has improved dramatically, and it looks like Seager is almost finished with the medication. Tillman last year was 11-11 with an ERA of about 5. Right now 10-2 and an ERA of 3. The 2-2 pitch on the way. Tillman delivered high and tight. Puig going down to his knees, getting his chin out of the way. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Yasiel checked. Down he went. Back up 3-2. Another thing that Tillman has done, he's increased his strikeouts over 30% from last year. 3-2 to Yasiel Puig. Tillman down 1-0. Runner goes, and the pitch is high for ball 4. So in the inning, Seager doubled.
Number 9.
Gonzalez singled him home, and Puig walked. Buck Showalter, the talented manager of Baltimore. Boy, I'll tell you, his dad was really something. His father appeared on D-Day. He was in North Africa. He fought in Italy. And Mr. Shoemaker was in the Battle of the Bulge. He has a father to revere. 2 on, 2 out. And the pitch to Grandal gets away at the plate. Not far enough, and the runners hold. 1 ball and no strikes. Now, Tillman has done very well against right-hand batters. Struggling right now in the inning. Seager doubled, Gonzalez singled, and now here's Grandal. 1-0 Dodgers, first inning. 2 out, 2 on. Now Tillman's 1-0 pitch in for a strike at 91. One ball and 1 strike. Tillman also is very effective in Baltimore. He's 7-0 at home. Here's his 1-1 pitch to Grandal. Swung on. High fly ball to left field. Going back on it is Kim. Still on the grass and makes the catch. So a fly ball to left. Dodgers, however, bounce right back with a double and a single. And at the end of an inning, Dodgers won, Baltimore nothing. As we go to the second inning, it'll be Mark Trumbo, then Matt Wieters and Jonathan Schoop, followed by J.J. Hardy. So Maeda was fortunate. He did not give up a run only because of that remarkable catch by Trayce Thompson in right center field. 1-0 Dodgers, 1 run, 2 hits, and no runs, 1 hit for Baltimore. Mark Trumbo will lead it off, leading the majors with 24 home runs, 62 RBIs, and dynamite against right-hand pitching, hitting over 300. So Trumbo, the former Angel, big right-hand batter, also played the outfield, remember, for Arizona, and takes ball 1. He plays right field for Baltimore. 1 ball and no strikes. A couple of interesting notes way back in that 1966 World Series. The 1-0 pitch on the way, Maeda delivers, swung on and missed, 1-1. On the day that Palmer beat Koufax, Willie Davis becoming the first player to make 3 errors in 1 inning in postseason. Well, the second to do it was also a Dodger, shortstop Rafael Furcal. He did it against Philadelphia in the championship series in 2008. Interesting, too, both of those 3 error innings came in the 5th inning and involved 2 great pitches. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way. Swung on, fouled away. Willie Davis 3 errors that undermined Koufax. Rafael Furcal's 3 errors did the same thing to Greg Maddux. And interesting, too, at each game, it was the final game of that great pitcher's career. 1 ball and 2 strikes to Mark Trumbo. Maeda into the windup. Canha comes back and it's fouled to the screen, though it's still 1-2. Baseball certainly is one sport where you can talk about a World Series from 50 years ago and still find some rather interesting things about it. And certainly that 4-game series with Baltimore was one to remember. The 1-2 pitch on the way, and that's low and away, 2-2. I think I mentioned this before. I remember in '66, the Dodgers set a record. They were shut out 17 times. No team had ever been shut out that many times and still won the pennant. Well, they went into the World Series and they were shut out 3 times in a 4-game series. Pitches just off the corner, 3-2. And the one name that I remember the most in '66, Larry Jaster. Larry Jaster not only beat the Dodgers 5 times, there were 5 complete games, and would you believe there were 5 shutouts? Yep. Here's the 3-2 pitch on the way to Trumbo, way off the plate, and marks aboard. So Maeda walking the leadoff man, and the catcher, Matt Wieters, coming up. Wieters last night went 1 for 4. Big Matt checking in, hitting a solid .268. He has 9 home runs. Buck Showalter said he's the best tagger in the game. Matt, big left-hand batter, and takes a pitch for a strike on 1. Reminds me of Felipe Alou. Remember the great outfielder who also managed the Giants? He was talking about a backup catcher the Giants had, and he said he was the finest catcher for foul tips he had ever seen. Here's the strike 1 pitch. Wieters goes the other way, and line drive base hit to the gap. Over to cut it off is Kendrick, and all the way to third, beating the throw, is Trumbo. So Maeda's in trouble, first and third, and nobody out.
Baseman number 6, Jonathan Schoop.
So first and third, Jonathan Schoop coming up. Schoop was unfortunate last night, and the Dodgers were extremely fortunate on a big play in the 6th inning. It was a perfect double play ball, and somehow Schoop could not get it out of his glove. Turned it into a force play, That kept the inning alive, and Utley singled in the 5th run to tie up the game. Then in the next inning, there was a balk that was cashed in. Dodgers went on to win 7-5. So the Orioles, very unlucky 2 innings last night. So Schoop waiting, 1st and 3rd, nobody out, and he swings at an off speed, a changeup at 75, fouls it away. Jim Palmer, whom we've talked about, has played and seen a lot of games. He says Jonathan Schoop has the best arm of any second baseman he has ever seen. He played with Bobby Grich and a whole bunch of others. 0-1 the count. Schoop's from Curacao. Strike 1 pitch, ground foul outside of 3rd, and the count's 0-2. Schoop from Williamsted in Curacao. He'll be 25, so he's only 24 at the plate. He'll be 25 first week in October. Started playing baseball at 4. Played soccer until he was 16 and then quit it. They're both Kenley Jansen and Jonathan Schoop from Williamsted, so I'm sure they know each other, maybe played against each other. Little flare to right field. Puig is hustling up. It's going to drop in front of him. He's got to play at second base and gets the runner. Wieters. The runners had to hold, and Puig was able to get that ball over to second on the force play. Meanwhile, Trumbo scored, and the game is tied. Nice play, nice throw. So Puig, coming from nowhere, caught it on a hop, gunned it in, a one-hopper, in fact a line drive to Seager in time. So Schoop, instead of getting a base hit, hits into a force play, 9-6. He does get a run batted in, and the game is tied. 1 run and 2 hits for each side. Here is J.J. Hardy, who had a great at-bat last night. He takes a change-up for a strike. Hardy had 2 doubles last night. In his first at-bat, it was a 10-pitch at-bat, and hanging tough, he doubled into right center to drive in 2 runs. And that broke a string. Here's the strike 1 pitch down and away. Before J.J.'s 2-run double, Dodger pitchers had held opponents hitless in their last 43 at-bats with runners on base. That's pretty hard to believe, isn't it? Over the last 10 years, been only one other streak that long. 2012, the Angels held opponents hitless in 44 consecutive at-bats. 1-1 is a ground ball to short. Seager to Utley, who turns to Gonzalez, and they get the double play. 6-4-3 DP, but the Birds get a run. Could have gotten more, except a good play by Yasiel Puig. And at the end of an inning and a half, a 1-1 tie. Numbers Pin Series collection Thursday at 7:10. Dodgers and Padres, and the pin given to the first 40,000 fans features number 24, Walter Alston, courtesy of 76. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Maeda gives up another 15 pitches, so he's made 30. We have a 1-1 tie. Bottom of the second inning, Howie Kendrick. Tillman's first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. We can also tell you the Giants had Brandon Belt single home Angel Pagan, and they lead 1-0 over Colorado, top of the second inning. Kendrick, a comebacker. Tillman has it, lobs it over to first, in time, one away. So that'll bring up Chris Taylor. Taylor playing third base.
Chris Taylor.
Taylor giving Justin Turner a well-deserved night off. And I'll tell you one thing, Turner, a very tough act to follow. He made a couple of brilliant plays last night, one on Machado in the third inning and another in the sixth inning against Rickard. So here's Taylor hitting .231. He appeared briefly last night as a pinch hitter and walked. And the first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Couple of notes again about that rather remarkable 4-game series won by Baltimore in 1966. Frank Robinson, a great player in the National League. No reason why he wouldn't be a great player in the American League, and he was. His World Series home runs capped his first season in Baltimore, in which he won the American League Most Valuable Player and the Triple Crown. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way, taken low, 2-1 the count. That Triple Crown consisted of what remained the only batting title of his career, the only home run title of his career, and the only RBI title of his career. So Robinson, in his career, won one batting title, one home run title, one RBI title, and won them all the same year. Pitch in for a strike, and the count 2-2. So Chris Tillman, they tell a story, maybe it's a little apocryphal, maybe not, but they talk about when he was 2 years old, sitting in his high chair having breakfast. 2-2 pitch on the way, punched on the ground into right field. So Taylor goes the other way. In fact, we've seen a lot of going the other way. Kim doubled to left. Wieters singled to left. Seager doubled to left. Gonzalez singled to left. So the hitters are going the other way, and it's paying off. And the batter now, Kenta Maeda. Maeda coming up. He has a home run, remember. A couple of RBIs. One out here in the second inning. Maeda can bunt. He has 5 sacrifices with 1 out. We'll see if they want him to do it and give Utley a chance to drive in a run. Maeda shows bunt, takes high, ball 1. We have a 1-1 tie. Bottom of the second inning. Game 2 of the 3-game series. Dodgers trying to extend a 5-game winning streak. Baltimore trying to snap a 5-game losing streak. Baltimore leading Boston by 2. Dodgers trailing the Giants by 5. A run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. A run, 2 hits for Baltimore. Maeda again showing bunt. Throw to first, almost picked off Chris Davis, the first baseman. Anyway, the story about Tillman, supposedly he was eating breakfast. He wanted more eggs or more food. Couldn't communicate. Grabbed an orange, fired it across the kitchen floor, and hit his grandmother in the back. At 2. Well, nobody's going to argue with him now at 6-5. Here's the 1-0 pitch. Maeda still showing bunt. He tries to bunt. It's right on the chalk. Fair ball. And the out recorded at first. So Maeda comes up with his 6th sacrifice. Taylor advances to second, and that'll bring up Utley, who grounded out, but not just a routine ground ball.
26,
So that little bunt spinning and spinning but stayed fair. Wieters right behind Maeda finally picked it up and made the play. Chase Utley grounded out to the second baseman, but the second baseman, Jonathan Schoop, was way out in right field. He is not playing a deep second base, not with a runner at second. So Utley ready to climb in with Seager on deck. 2 out, second inning, a 1-1 tie. Tillman looks back at second, works Utley, gets it in for a strike, and the count 0-1. Dodgers playing an American League team for the 11th time, and they have split the previous 10. For Baltimore, they are playing a National League team for the 6th time. They're 3-2. 0-1 the count. Strike one pitch is swung on, a drive to right. Trumbo, however, moving to his right, makes the catch, and that's the inning. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 2, a 1-1 tie. Tie as we go to the 3rd inning. Chris Tillman followed by Adam Jones and then Hyun-Soo Kim. Kenta Maeda, who did his job in getting the bunt down, now back to work on the mound. Maeda has given up a run and 2 hits. Working now on Tillman, followed by Jones and Kim. When you want to talk, getting back just for the moment to it, if you want to talk about one pitcher dominated a team, that would be Larry Jaster, that pitched to Tillman a strike. I mean, imagine he's 22 years old. He is a rookie. The Dodgers are going to win the pennant. And he not only shuts him out, he did not even give up an extra base hit in 5 shutout games. I can't think of another 1-year overwhelming performance turned by a pitcher against one team. And to think he was 22 and a rookie. Incredible. 1-1 the count to Tillman. Right-hander Maeda delivers, swung on and missed, and the count 1-2. Tillman, who is tall, he's 6'5", he could dunk a basketball when he was 13 years old. That's what they said, 13, and he can do it. Check swing on the corner for a strike, and down he goes. For Maeda, that would be his 2nd strikeout. Now Adam Jones coming up. Jones flied to center in the 1st inning. You know, he caught a ball last night. Was one of the hardest hit balls I think we've seen all year. It was hit by Grandal in the 8th inning. It was a low line drive like a pro hits a 2-iron. And Jones in center field, standing well over 300 feet away, waited for the ball, and then it took off. And he made an incredible leaping catch and actually did a somersault on the grass. The first pitch of the young right-hand batter, Jones holds up. It's a strike anyway. Of course, when you see a ball hit that hard up the middle, your first thought after that great catch is, boy, imagine the poor pitcher if that had been hit back to him. Maeda ready. Strike one pitch to Adam. Curveball hit in the air down the right field line. That could be trouble. It is going to drop. Kicks away into foul ground. On his way into second is Jones, and he has himself a double. So a little fly ball into right field. That's the second double for Baltimore and the third double in the game. Fly ball down the right field line. Puig over to the line, but by the time he picked it up, Jones, who runs very well, breezing into second base. So the batter now, Han-Soo Kim from Korea. We had a beautiful demonstration before the game. Korean dancing, gymnastics, lovely sight. Kim doubled in the first inning to left field. So again, the hitters are going the other way. The first pitch to Kim, a change, but that missed at 72. 1 ball and no strikes. So the left-hand hitting Kim, double to left. The switch hitting Wieters, batting left-handed, single to left. For the Dodgers, Seager, the left-hand hitter, double to left. Gonzalez, the left-hand hitter, single to left. Taylor, a right-hand batter, single to right. And now the double to right by Jones. So whether it just happens or they're actually just trying to go the other way, they have been doing that all 6 hits. Han-Soo Kim waiting at the plate. I don't know whether they forgot to tell him or what happened. All during the Korean show before the game, he was standing in front of the Baltimore dugout like Rio was standing in front of the Dodger dugout. Change is high. Then Kim disappeared. Then all of a sudden the honor was to be given out. Well, Hyun-Jin Ryu was there to get it, but Kim was nowhere to be seen. Han-Soo, 6'2", big fella, left-hand batter. The 3-0 pitch on the way. Maeda ready and delivers, and he's swinging, and it's a fly ball to left field. Kendrick is there to make the catch. And wouldn't you know, he went the other way again, even on a 3-0 pitch. So Kim, a fly ball to left.
Number 13, Manny Machado.
And Manny Machado coming up. Everybody talks about what a great hitter Machado is, and he has been a great hitter in the 2 games with nothing to show for it. As we mentioned earlier, last night, Utley took a base hit, leaping in the air to spear a line drive. In the 3rd inning last night, Justin Turner made a super play to handle a hard shot and throw him out. And then tonight, he hit what looked like a sure double, and Trace Thompson made a great catch. So it says he's 0 for 5, but he could easily be 3 for 5. Maeda, very careful, works the hitter and misses inside, ball 1. So Machado, one of the really fine hitters in the American League. Manny Arturo Machado, with runners in scoring position, hitting .315. He's 6'3" and 190. Maeda delivers off speed, low with the changeup, 2-0. Machado was a first-round pick by the Orioles 6 years ago. 2-0 the count. Now the 2-0 pitch on the way. That's low and inside, ball 3. Machado, very dangerous last year. He had 35 home runs, 86 runs batted in, and he has Chris Davis hitting back of him, a left-hand batter. And now with first base open, they put the dangerous Machado on base. They'll walk him intentionally. So with 2 out, 2 on, Chris Davis, who struck out in the first inning.
Chris Davis.
Davis has a lot of power. 21 home runs, 56 runs batted in. We have a 1-1 tie, 3rd inning. Both sides have been active offensively. Davis, another big guy, 6'3" and 230. Originally a 5th-round pick by the Rangers. He was born in Longview, Texas. Joe Machado at first, Jones at second. And here's Davis. Davis had a string back in the 12th of June. 5-game streak where he hit a home run in each of the 5 games. He hit 6 home runs during that streak. Reggie Jackson is the only other player in O's history to hit a home run in 6 straight games. Now the 1-0 pitch on the way to Chris Davis. Maeda off speed. That's in. He's throwing a lot of slow pitches in the 70s. Most of them little lazy curveballs, or at least there's a bend to it rather than a straight change. 1-1 the count. Davis waiting. Maeda comes inside, swung on and missed. It gets away from Grandal, and the runners move up a notch to second and third. Pitch was a breaking ball, and Grandal trying to backhand it. That's that bad thing that catchers will do. Instead of shifting the body with men on base, and you backhand it, you don't come up with it. Now you have 2 runners in scoring position, and it is a pass ball charged to Grandal. Boy, that is such an important play. Okay, 1-2 the count to Chris Davis. Maeda set. Kenta ready and delivers. Fastball high at 92, and the count 2-2. Chris Davis with Mark Trumbo hitting behind him. Davis, 30 years old. Deuces wild here. Second and third. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out. And ball 3. And that gets away from Grandal. Not very far. But Yasmani having some trouble. 3-2 the count. 1 tie. 1-1. Top of the third. With 1 out, Jones doubled to right. Kim swung at a 3-0 pitch and flied to left. They walk Machado intentionally. And here's Davis with first base open, 3-2. Maeda looks in, getting a sign, shuffling the cards. Grandal. And the 3-2 pitch coming up, slow and lifted to straightaway center. Looks playable. Backtracking a bit is Thompson, and 1 foot shy of the track makes the catch. So no runs. Runners living at second and third. Corey Seager led off his first at bat and doubled to left. He has an 18-game hitting streak, and he's leading off in a 1-1 tie. 1-1 tie. Corey Seager, uniform muddied from going into second base with his double, so he has hit safely in 18 straight. 17 home runs, 41 runs batted in, and an all-star. And he takes away ball one, 1-0. Chris Tillman pitching from a stretch. Now works the plate. Seager swings, little ground ball on the right side. Scope up with it, throws him out, and we have one down in the third inning. The batter will be Trace Thompson, who has already distinguished himself with that great catch on the ball hit by Machado in the first inning. I mean, it was truly a great catch for the runner at second base. Boy, did he hit that wall, leaping in the air to catch the ball, and then he went right into the pads. So Trace in a 1-1 tie, one out, bases empty. Thompson, 13 home runs, 32 runs batted in, hitting in the 230s, and takes a strike. 0-1. Facing local boy Chris Tillman out of Anaheim. Went to Fountain Valley High School. Strike one pitch on the way. Ground ball to the right side. There's Scope again. And we have two down in the third inning. And Adrian Gonzalez coming up. Tillman had committed to go to Cal State Fullerton, but he was drafted, signed up with the Mariners, and turned pro. Won 16 games for the Orioles. The next year 13, the year after that 11. So he's trying to turn things around. He's got 10 wins right now. Adrian Gonzalez single to left field to drive in Seager, who would double to left field. And we have a 1-1 tie in the third. Giants lead the Rockies 1-0. That's top of the third inning up there. Tyler Chatwood and Madison Bumgarner. Gonzalez, of course, he did play in the American League, hitting .380 in his career against Baltimore pitching. 1-1 to count. Tillman plants that right foot on the third base side of the rubber. Adrian waiting. And the 1-1 pitch on the way. Off speed and low, ball two. If you ask Tillman, do you have any special talent? He's not going to talk baseball at all. He's going to talk about fishing. He is a very good fisherman. In fact, he competes in bass tournaments during the off season. 2-1 pitch, ground ball to the second baseman in right field, and that'll be that, the throw to first. So all three outs, ground balls to Scope. And at the end of three, a 1-1 tie. LA is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. This was the final out of the '66 World Series. Brooks Robinson jumping in the air, Dave McNally, the left-hand pitcher, and the broken-hearted third base coach for the Dodgers, number 18, Preston Gomez. Fourth inning, a 1-1 tie. Maeda now working against Mark Trumbo. Mark, big fella at 6'4", 230, and takes a strike. With the Angels, Mark hit 29 home runs, 32, 34. Then leading the American League with what they call exit velocity. When the bat meets the ball, somehow they figure out the speed of the ball leaving the bat. What is it? 95.2. 1 ball and 1 strike to Mark Trumbo. Trumbo followed by Wieters and then Schoop. The 1-1 pitch. Mark takes a strike inside corner at the knees. 1-2. By the way, the first place Cleveland Indians beat Detroit tonight 12-1. They're now 11-0 against the Tigers, and they have outscored Detroit 77-24. Whoa. Here's the 1-2 pitch coming up, and that's squirted up along the first baseline foul. 1-2. A couple of more notes about the '66 series, if you don't mind. When the Dodgers were swept, it was kind of odd. It was the third and most recent time a defending world champions were swept in the World Series. The other time, when the Dodgers swept the Yankees in 1963, and way back when the Philadelphia A's swept the Miracle Braves in 1914. And just a couple of more notes, one of which pretty interesting about Frank Robinson. We're 1-1 in the fourth, and the 1-2 pitch on the way, fastball inside. Frank Robinson hit a home run off Don Drysdale that gave Baltimore the 1-0 win over the Dodgers in Game 4. Robinson's 2-run home run off Drysdale in the first inning of Game 1 started the scoring in the series. In all the years Robinson faced Drysdale, he hit 2 home runs off him, and they were in the World Series. The pitch is strike to Trumbo, and down he goes. So 1 out in the fourth inning. 3 strikeouts for Maeda. Wieters, left-hand batter, single to left field. 1 for 1. Switch hitter, batting left-handed. So that's about it. We'll put it to bed. The 1966 World Series between Baltimore and the Dodgers. First pitch in for a strike to Wieters. 0-1 the count. Maeda in trouble in the first inning, and Thompson saved him. In trouble in the second inning, gave up a run and gave up a double in the third, but get out of the inning. Strike 1 pitch is a ground ball, base hit. Now let's see, Big Wieters, the catcher, going over to pick up the ball is Thompson, and Wieters will hold at first. The way the infield was and the outfield set, a ground ball heading towards right center, but Thompson was able to pick it up. So Wieters is 2 for 2. And the batter, Jonathan Schoop. Schoop hit into a force play. That was that fly ball that dropped into right field for what apparently would be a base hit. But the runners had to hold. Puig was on it, hurried the throw, and Wieters was forced at second base. So Schoop takes ball 1. So Yasiel picking up an assist. Heads up play. 1 ball and no strikes to Jonathan. We have a 1-1 tie. 1 run, 4 hits for Baltimore. 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Schoop showed great promise early as Machado looks on along with Adam Jones. 1 ball and 1 strike. 1 out, 4th inning, 1-1. 1-2. Kenta Maeda trying to win his 8th. He is 7-5. 4-2 in his last 7 starts. Roberts and Guerin, his coach, watching what's going on. The 1-2 pitch, swung on, foul back. Jonathan Schoop played in the World Baseball Classic for Team Netherlands. Curaçao, remember, is part of the Dutch Caribbean. That was back in 13. He has a tattoo which is a reminder. It's a tattoo of 5 stars. He wants to be a 5-tool player. So it's a constant reminder, and it's also a critique. Curveball, little fly ball to left. Kendrick coming in, Seager going out. A backhanded try, but Kendrick can't make the catch. Down to second base goes Wieters. So Kendrick going one way, the shortstop Seager going the other. At the last moment, Kendrick trying to dive away from Seager and backhand the ball, but he couldn't do it. So a pop fly single, and we have runners at first and second with 1 out. There were runners at second and third in the 3rd inning. So there have been runners in scoring position against Maeda in every inning. Now here's a tough hitter batting .246. J.J. Hardy. .246 doesn't ring like much, but after watching when that 10-pitch at bat last night, he can be tough. So Hardy, right-hand batter. Change for ball 1. Talking about a tough hitter with runners in scoring position. Look at that, hitting .295. Two and 0 the count. Hardy was on the DL for over a month. He had a hairline fracture in his left foot. 3 times he's had shoulder surgery. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. 2-0. Late on a good fastball. 2-1. When Hardy started playing in the big leagues, his glove was suspect. It was a cream colored glove. And the official said, that's not good. We can't spot the ball with that cream colored glove. So now he wears one that's kind of rust color. 2-1. And whacked down the line, foul. 2-2 to James Jerry Hardy, better known to the world as JJ. Born in Tucson, lives in Tempe, was a 2nd-round pick by the Milwaukee Brewers back in 2001 and grew up with Dustin Yount, son of Robin Yount. I bet those two put on a great show playing catch, huh? 2-2. Wieters, a tough man to score from second on a base hit. Fastball is low. So Wieters at second, and with only 1 out, that's not much of an edge. With 2 out, at least the big guy would be going. Schoop at first. Waiting on deck, Tillman the pitcher. 1 out, 2 on, 3-2 the count to J.J. Hardy. Line drive, foul again. So he's hit 2 down there. Remember now, last night he had that 10-pitch at bat. That was really impressive. So this will be the 7th pitch in this at bat. Yasmani Grandal trying to figure out how to get him. When they went to 10 last time, he doubled to right center field. He's hit 2 bullets down the left field line, but foul. Three and 2 the count. And it's strike 3 called on a slow breaking ball. The last thing that Hardy was looking for. So a great pitch, and he just locked in for strike 3. That would be the 4th strikeout for Maeda. And now here's Tillman, who struck you out back in the 3rd inning. So for Kenta Maeda, he's just been bobbing and weaving, taking a lot of punches, but only giving up 1 run. 5 hits, 2 walks, a wild pitch, and yet only 1 run. First pitch fouled away, 0-1. For Baltimore, this is not what they expected. They know that their pitching is a little weak. But Buck has a ball club that was breathing fire offensively. They have 128 home runs. Mark Trumbo leading the way. Manny Machado, another great hitter. Adam Jones on deck. They've got a lot of firepower, but now they're having trouble scoring here, and even if they get out in front, last night they led 3-0. Dodgers caught them. 5-2. Dodgers caught them. Dodgers won 7-5. 1-1 4th inning, 2 on, 2 out, and the pitcher Tillman at the plate. Weak swing, down he goes. 5 strikeouts for Maeda. 2 more left. That's 6 men left on in the first 4 innings for Baltimore in a 1-1 tie. Of the 4th inning, a 1-1 tie. Here's the Dodger record this year through 85, and let's look back. They had the same record at this time in 2014, almost the same last year, and then if you go to 2013, 41-44, but they're about the same for the last couple of years. What does that do to them? Where are they? Well, right now, persistent behind the Giants by 5. Colorado way back 14.5. The Giants, they're leading the Rockies 1-0, 4th inning. Tyler Chatwood locked in a tough one with Madison Bumgarner. Maeda in his 4 innings has made 73 pitches, which is not good news for the Dodger bullpen. Tillman's pitch to Puig, in for a strike. Tillman over these 3 innings has made 38. 0-1. And a pop fly. Backing out is the shortstop Hardy. So Puig pops it up, 1 out, and Grandal, who flied to left, coming up.
Number 9, Yasmani Grandal.
When Tillman was growing up in the Anaheim area, Fountain Valley, his dad used to say, I never had to worry about him, about parties on a Friday and Saturday night. We knew where he was going. He was going to the local golf courses in the neighborhood at 10 o'clock at night to go bass fishing. Grandal, ball 1, 1-0. Of course, he's a big fish himself at 6'5". He can handle a lot more than bass. Fastball fouled away. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Yasmani Grandal 0 for 1 tonight, hitting .187. 9 home runs, 8 of them hit left-handed. Changeup in nicely. At 6'5", that ball comes out of his hand that slow. It's a big surprise. 1-2. Same move with a 91-mile-an-hour fastball. Tillman signed a 1-year deal in January, so he signed up just for this year. He has 10 wins, 2 losses, 7-0 at home. Fastball pulled to the shallow right fielder. That's Jonathan Schoop. So 2 down. Schoop had 3 ground balls in the 3rd inning. He got 1 from Utley in the 1st inning, and now this one. So he's had 5 ground balls on the right side, many of them where he's in right field. Howie Kendrick hit back to the box in the 2nd inning. Ball 1. Dodgers scored a run in the 1st inning. Seager double a left, Gonzalez single a left. Baltimore came back with a run in the 2nd. That's going to drop into right center for a base hit. Trumbo gets it back in. So the 2-out single by Howie Kendrick. That will bring up Chris Taylor. 1 run, 5 hits for Baltimore. 1 run, 4 hits for the Dodgers. Chris Taylor hitting .286 because he hadn't played much. Nevertheless, that's what he's batting, and hitting a base hit to right field tonight. Fastball at 91. Tillman's fastball, they say, has been clocked at 96. But he hasn't thrown close to that tonight. He has a cutter, curveball, and a change. 0-1. 1-1. There were games where Tillman would not use the curveball at all. He was a 2-pitch pitcher, a fastball and a changeup, and that was it. Two out, bottom of the 4th, a 1-1 tie. Kendrick is 7-0 in stolen bases, but you have Taylor and the pitcher following. One ball, one strike. Fouled a fastball away, and the count 1-2. Tomorrow's game at 12:10. It'll be one of the better young pitchers in the Baltimore organization, Kevin Gausman, and he'll go up against Bud Norris. Remember the last time Norris pitched, he was brilliant, striking out 8. All right, Tillman with a 1-2 count. 2 down. Kendrick at first. Foul back. Chris at the beginning of the year was 56-42. So in his career now, he has 66 wins and only 44 losses. One and two. Kendrick watching him and draws a throw. Five hits for Baltimore, 4 hits for the Dodgers. Dodgers have 1 double. Baltimore has 2. Slicing foul and out of the crowd. Still 1-2. Dodgers made an anticipated move. Julio Urias went down. We're going to watch him carefully as he progresses. Luis Avilan, the left-hander, called up. Another pitcher in the bullpen. The way things have been going, they need a lot of pitchers in the bullpen. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And another foul ball. So Taylor hanging tough. Christopher Armand Taylor from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Went to the university there and was originally signed by the Mariners in 2012. Played with the Mariners in the big league, so the Orioles know him all right. 1-2. Slow and fouled away again. So this will be an 8-pitch at bat right now with 5 fouls. Both coaches were busy. Lombard over to say something to Kendrick. Woodward whistling so that Taylor looked down to him. Another foul ball. So it's going to be a 9-pitch at bat. Taylor is 6'1", about 190, 26 years old come August. Meanwhile, Wheeler's out talking to Tillman. What are we going to do to get rid of this guy? Tillman has made 17 pitches in the 4th inning, and a bunch of them to Taylor. 1 ball and 2 strikes. There goes Kendrick. The pitch is high. The throw is there to wait for him, and he's out from me to you. So the Dodgers risked that, and that's important. It means with Kendrick thrown out, the Dodger hitters will be numbers 8 and 9 starting the next inning. And at the end of 4, a 1-1 tie. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Toyota's Summer Drive Sales event is going on now, where you can save big on the all-new Prius. A look back at one of the great players, Hall of Famer Frank Robinson. He was a holy terror with Cincinnati, and his first year with Baltimore, as we mentioned earlier, he was the American League Most Valuable Player, and he also hit for the Triple Crown: batting average, home runs, and RBIs. He was also one of the most ferocious base runners that we had seen in years. Meanwhile, Adam Jones, Hyun-Soo Kim, and Manny Machado. Jones flied to center and doubled to right, got as far as third in the third inning. Maeda, who's been in trouble in every inning, going to work. Ground ball up the middle. Utley won't quit, but he can't make the play. So Jones, a leadoff single. He's 2 for 3. You know, the Orioles came in second to St. Louis, hitting .297 with runners in scoring position. But Buck's team so far 0-for-7 with runners in scoring position. So here now is Kim with Machado, Davis, Trumbo, and you wonder just when they're going to explode. Kim double, flied to left. Remember, they let him swing 3-0. Strike. Hyun-Soo Kim. Oh, and 2. At one time in Korea, quite a while ago, he received the award as the most outstanding high school hitter in South Korea. He won a Gold Glove in Korea. 0-2. Adam Jones over there at first base just has one stolen base, even though he's a leadoff man. Young fellow who has done a lot of good things for the poor kids down in San Diego. One and 2. Two and 2. So for Baltimore, they've had at least one hit in every inning. They had 2 hits in the fourth. Pedro Baez is throwing in the Dodger bullpen. Maeda has made 78 pitches with nobody out in the 5th inning. So for the Dodgers, that's the problem. At first glance, they're getting great pitching. But they're getting great pitching for 5 and 6 innings. Maeda ready to make his 80th pitch. Jones at first, Kim at the plate. Nobody out. Off speed and off the plate. Maeda has been using his fastball occasionally, it seems. A lot of off-speed pitches. Big pitch. Otherwise, she's looking at Machado with 2 men on. Jones goes. Wow, is that pitch out of the strike zone. 80 pitches, and he's in trouble now. Rick Honeycutt sweating him out, making his notes. Manny Machado coming up. And let's see about Dave Roberts, whether he's making a move or not. Nope. Rick Honeycutt is going out to try to help. So Baltimore 1 run, 6 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 4 hits. So far, Baltimore has stranded 6 in 4 innings. The Dodgers had a couple of men on in the first 2 innings and nothing since except a base hit by Kendrick, who was then thrown out trying to steal. So the Dodgers really haven't done anything except for the double by Seager and the single by Gonzalez in the first inning. So Baez would be just about ready. A big meeting on the mound, although it's instructions more than anything else. All right. Honeycutt has delivered his message. Will Ireton delivering it to both Grandal and Maeda. And Mike DeMuro, the plate umpire, going out there to try and move things along. 1 run, 6 hits for Baltimore. 1 run, 4 hits for the Dodgers, and now really trouble with Machado. So Jones at second, Kim at first, nobody out, and here's Manny. For Showalter, he's got his man up there. Instead, foul ball, and the count 0-1. Manny Machado, one of the better hitters the game has produced. Consistently. Been with the Orioles to stay in 2013. Big year last year, 35 home runs, 86 runs batted in. He's from Miami, Florida. 0-2. And looking at Machado's numbers, 18 home runs, about 340 plate appearances, and he has struck out 60 times. 0-2. So for Baltimore, they have their biggest man up there with 2 on, nobody out. One and 2 to Manny Arturo Machado. 6'3", 190. Been playing professionally since 2010. 24 years old. Machado going to have a birthday tomorrow. Foul back. He'll be 24 tomorrow. He's a big man, starting right down with his feet. Size 13 as he plants them in the box. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Maeda not quite sure. The 86th pitch. Check swing, down and away. 2 balls and 2 strikes. One, 5th inning. Giants winning 1-0 last we heard, and it's still there that way. Chatwood and Bumgarner. 2-2 to Manny. Foul back. Maeda going to the fastball on that 2-2 count. They're in the bottom of the 5th inning now up at AT&T Park. Still 1-0. Brandon Belt and Angel Pagan combined to get the run. All right, this will be the 88th pitch for Machado. Curveball, and that's it. I mean, a hanging curve, and that thing is going to go way up in the pavilion. It almost went to the back row. So all of a sudden, Machado does his thing. A 3-run home run, and Baltimore now takes a 4-1 lead. It means the Orioles have hit 129 home runs by the guy you might expect to do it. Well, Machado, a great young hitter, and just like that, Baltimore's out there, and so is Dave Roberts. So Machado got that curveball, and he just waited, and I mean, he hit it a mile. I would say he missed the back row, maybe 3 rows shy. Wasn't going to hit on the pavilion roof, but it was way back in there, that far. 1, 2, 3, about 5 rows from the top. So that does it for Maeda. It is 4-1 in favor of Baltimore. Machado does what you kind of expect, and we'll be back. Just took too many punches. He worked hard. He made 88 pitches. There were men on base in every inning. It looked like he threw an awful lot of off-speed pitches, using his fastball occasionally. And finally, he threw that curveball to Machado. And in all honesty, you could have hung your hat on it. And Machado just put the bat on it and hit it out of sight. However, the problem remains the fact that the Dodgers can't get a starting pitcher to go too far. But Dave Roberts, for Maeda, who is not more than a 5-inning pitcher so far this year, he goes 4 innings. And boy, that's not much help. So the Dodgers immediately are in the pen. Machado knocks the door open, and that brings in Baez. And Pedro will be facing Davis, Trumbo, and Wieters. Dodgers, of course, know that they can come back. They were down 3-0 last night and tied it, down 5-2 last night and came back to tie it, and then went on to win it 7-5. So now we'll see about Baez. Ball 1. Dodgers loading up the right side. Taylor is out there in right field. Seager all alone on the left side. 1 ball and no strikes. 2-0. Baez 1-2. ERA of about a 3.5. He has allowed 7 home runs. Boy, they have really jumped up and bitten him. 2-0. That's a strike. 4-1 in favor of Baltimore. Top of the 5th inning. So Baltimore, that could not pick up a man at home, they left 7 with runners in scoring position, and then Machado took care of that. 2-2. Remember, the Dodgers ran Kendrick, and he was thrown out trying to steal. So when the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 5th inning, they'll have Taylor, followed by Baez, and then Utley. Kendrick caught for the first time this year. He was 7-0. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Davis has struck out and flied to center. Fastball at 97, but not close. Three and 2 the count to Davis, with Trumbo waiting on deck. And got him on a high fastball at 97. Baez has walked 12, and he has struck out 47. Almost 4-1.
Fielder Mark Trumbo.
Maeda, while he was in there, struck out 5. Trumbo walked, scored a run, and struck out. Golfing a 97-mile-an-hour fastball that was very much out of the strike zone. Trumbo with 24 home runs. He has also struck out 95 times. One ball and 1 strike. Trumbo, as we mentioned, 95 strikeouts, struck out 184 times one year with the Angels. Fastball at 98. Trumbo's a big man. You expect some home runs from him. 6'4", 230. Two and 1. Two and 2. The Giants picked up another run. They're leading Colorado 2-0. We'll check the inning. Giants picked up the run on a pass ball as Manny Machado sits calmly, waiting to do damage. Big 3-run home run here in the 5th inning. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Foul ball out of play. That Giant ball game is now in the top of the 6th inning. So Bumgarner facing Colorado, and shut him down for a little while anyway. 2 balls and 2 strikes. He has become a very deliberate, slow working pitcher. Two and 2. Ball 3. 1 out. In the inning, Jones singled to center. Kim walked, and Machado buried a curveball about 4 or 5 rows from the back row in the left field pavilion. I mean, he walloped it. So Machado now has 19 home runs, 53 runs batted in. Well, that good fastball at 98 takes care of Trumbo. So 2 down. Matt Wieters coming up. Say, bring the kids to the Dodger game on Sunday at 1:10 with the Padres. Remember, the first 15,000 kids 14 and under in attendance receive a Kike Hernandez Fathead courtesy of High Chew. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. So Baez comes in, immediately strikes out Davis, strikes out Trumbo. Now the catcher Wieters, who is 2 for 2. Ball 1. So 7 birds have struck out in 4 2/3 innings. But they're leading 4-1. And a nice ground ball to Utley. All right, Baez comes in and restores order, but not before Machado hits a 3-run home run. And we're going to the bottom of the 5th. A sad-looking Maeda. 4-1. Leading 4-1, bottom of the 5th inning, and Chris Taylor, the number 8 man in the lineup, coming up. Number 13, Manny Machado, put the birds out in front, 4-1. Scott Van Slyke is on deck as Taylor checks in. By the way, that was a big risk taken by the Dodgers with Kendrick, with 2 out, and Kendrick gets a base hit, and you have the number 8 hitter at the plate. And Kendrick tried to steal, and they threw him out. What made it really tough was because it was Tillman on the mound. Tillman has never allowed more than 5 stolen bases in an entire season, and he has not allowed a stolen base this year. That goes back to 2009. So they picked a bad hombre to try to steal, and they paid the price. Kendrick was caught for the first time this year. So here you are, beginning it with the number 8 hitter. Lewis Coleman is in the Dodger bullpen, and Van Slyke would bat for Baez. Ball 1. So the Dodgers into the bullpen. Baez, and now they'll be bringing in Coleman. 1 ball and 2 strikes. And a drive to right. Racing is Trumbo. Makes the catch. Fine play by Mark in right field. So Taylor, who had singled to right, lines out to right. And we have one down. And Van Slyke coming up to bat for Baez. Take another look at Trumbo. They thought it was a big risk when he went into left field with the Diamondbacks, but he did okay. And now he's developing better and better in the outfield so that he's playing right field. Here's Van Slyke. Big breaking ball, ball one. Bottom of the sixth inning. Giants lead 2-0, but they do have a problem. He's needed 96 pitches, did Bumgarner, to get through 6 innings. So you'd expect maybe one more, and now the Giants will have a problem when they're getting into their bullpen because they're not getting complete games. That's a strike. 1-2. They check, no swing. 2-2. Dodgers scored in the first. Baltimore scored in the second. Baltimore scored 3 in the fifth to lead 4-1. Giants are leading 2-0 in the sixth. And that's going to be hit into right field, base hit. So Van Slyke comes off the bench and singles to right. Only in the second inning, maybe the third inning, did the Dodgers fail to get a base hit. That was the inning where they hit 3 ground balls to Jonathan Schoop, the second baseman. Otherwise, they've had a hit an inning at least, with 2 hits for a run in the first inning. Dodgers now 1 run on 5 hits. Utley grounded out, fly to right. So he has pulled Tillman twice. Ball 1. Just thought of something. I made a note, but I forgot about it. I don't know anything about horse racing. Do you? Do you remember a wonderful player with the Dodgers named Jim Gilliam? He was a marvelous player. Well, we understand he wore number 19, and he wore it for so many, many years as a player and a coach. 1 ball, no strike. Little ground ball to Schoop. He goes to his shortstop for a force play. 2 down. Anyway, there is a horse named Gilliam after Jim Gilliam. And the horse's number is 19 because that was Gilliam's number. And the horse won today and paid, you got it, 19-1. Mm-hmm. Two down. Here's Corey Seager. No drama. He just walked up in the first inning and doubled. So the hit streak is very much alive. He's hit safely in 18 straight. Utley short lead. And a drive to left field, but Kim is there. And that'll be that. Bill Tillman, a quick inning, allows just to hit, nothing else. And at the end of 5, 4-1 Baltimore. This day in 1994, the Montreal Expos were here at Dodger Stadium, the team that later became the Washington Nationals. And with that game in Montreal, the broadcast was in 5 languages. English, of course, then you had Spanish, then you had French, and then we had Chinese and Korean. And we all still, no matter what language, 3 were outs for the inning, 4 were balls for a walk, and so it went. Amazing. No matter what the language is, you can talk to each other, at least in baseball, and get away with it. With that, let's go back to this one. So here's Lewis Coleman now. So it was Maeda for 4, Baez, now Lewis. A perfect example of no language barrier was a scene in the Dodger dugout a couple of days ago. Julio Urias head to head talking with Kenta Maeda. Remarkable. 1 ball and 1 strike. Score, hit into a force play single to left. And ball 2. Anytime I get into a game like this, there's Luis Avilan just called up. Urias was sent down. I keep thinking of the 2 years in a row that Sandy Koufax had 27 complete games. And that's speared by Seager. I mean, you say that to the players today and they just cannot understand that. That can't be. 27 complete games 2 years in a row. Clayton Kershaw, the best certainly the Dodgers have, one of the great pitchers in the game today. He has 3 as he talks to A.J. Ellis. A strike, 0-1. It's not to put down Kershaw. The idea is the game has changed so much. A recent Dodger Giant game, remember up there? Bruce Bochy went to the mound and made 5 changes of pitches in 1 inning. As Ellis, Kershaw, and McCarthy look on. 0-2. One and 2 to Hardy with the pitcher Tillman on deck. We're in the 6th. 4-1 Baltimore. Giants are leading 2-0. Bottom of the 6th inning up there. And with Bumgarner having used up 96 pitches, we'll see just how long he can go. Two balls, 2 strikes. 1 out, 6th inning. 4-1 Baltimore. And a 1-hopper by the glove of Seager, going out to left center, but Hardy will hold with the base hit. So Schoop lines out, Hardy singles, and here's Tillman in what you would think is a bunt situation. Tillman has struck out twice as an American League pitcher. He hasn't had an at-bat, so it's a tough assignment. Four to 1 Baltimore. They have a runner at first with 1 out in the 6th. Tillman will try to get the bunt down, I assume. Taylor well in on the grass at third. Adrian ready to push off and go to the plate. Well, he missed the bunt, strike 1. John Russell going through the signs. Meanwhile, J.J. Hardy at first base, 1 out. Now he's showing bunt. No, now he's going to go back to try and confuse the infield. Now bunt. If I were he, I don't think I would hold that bat back. It is certainly no secret he's going to try to bunt, so he might as well get settled. We also all understand how tough it is. Well, he's going to hold it back anyway. And gets the bunt down. Coleman has to go to first. So that's a great effort by the pitcher. Chris Tillman, 0-2, gets the bunt down. Hardy is now at second. And Adam Jones coming up.
Center fielder number 10, Adam Jones.
Adam Jones fly to center, fly ball double to right, and single to center. Adam 2 for 3. We mentioned earlier that Adam has done some wonderful things for the poor kids in San Diego. He grew up in a bad area, so he knows what it's like. Try to sell candy door to door, battling any way he could to make $1 or a nickel or whatever. So he finally got to the big leagues. Then he had some money, and he has a partnership with what they call Barks. Ball 1. The Baltimore Animal and Rescue Care Shelter. He also is very involved, appearing at the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Y, and Baltimore City Title I schools. So when he's not playing, he's working for the community. 2-0. His name is Adam. His wife's name is Audie. They have 2 boys, Axel and August. So they like that letter A. 2 balls, no strikes. And a fly ball to right field. Puig is there. And we notice that Yasiel is not wearing those glasses that he had been wearing for a couple of days and nights in right field. No runs, you hit a man left. The end of 5 1/2. 4-1 Baltimore. At LA is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. Cal Ripken Jr. victorious and crying after setting consecutive games straight during the game against the Angels. Ripken broke Lou Gehrig's record. Lou Gehrig played in 2,130. Ripken played 2,632. And a strike, Thompson, Gonzalez, and Puig in that order. Thompson grounded out twice, but he made a tremendous catch to prevent a run from scoring, and who knows how many in the first inning. Ground ball, fair ball. What a throw at third base. Wow, from Machado. That's a remarkable play, and it was right on the money.
First baseman, Adrian Gonzalez.
Ground ball right on the line. Machado, look where he is, how far, and on one leg he whirls. Perfect throw. Wow. He's quite a player, isn't he? We only see him for this series. So Thompson thrown out by Machado, one down. Adrian Gonzalez. Gonzalez single to left and grounded out. 1 for 2. His base hit drove in the Dodger run. By the way, just to back up what we were talking about earlier with teams using so many pitchers in a single game, and the fact that Koufax 2 years in a row had 27 complete games in each year. You know how many complete games in the majors? That's 30 teams. So far this year, 39. The Giants, they lead. They have 6. Two and 1 to Adrian. And fly ball to left field. Kim comes up. He was fighting the lights, and at the last minute found the ball. He's able to smile as Jones comes over to say something to him. And those balls get up in the lights. The best thing is to go down. That's what he did, and he caught the ball coming out of the lights before it hit the ground. So 2 out in the 6th inning. And here's Yasiel Puig, who has walked and popped a short. 4-1 Baltimore, bottom of the 6th. Fouled right into the mask of Wieters. 0-1. Tillman with 2 out in the 6th inning, leading 4-1. Good fastball. 0-2. Tillman, by the way, has had 5 fly balls, 9 ground balls, but as he works his way through the lineup, he does not have a strikeout. But he's leading 4-1. No swing. Pat Hoberg umpiring at first. 1-2 to Yasiel. Puig walked and popped up. Two and 2. So that's that big curveball that Tillman is throwing occasionally. Remember, we talked about there was a time he would pitch only with a fastball and a changeup. Two and 2. Ball 3. Giants are leading the Rockies 2-0 in the 7th inning, but what we were talking about has come to pass. Bumgarner was pulled after 6 innings. So George Contos is in there, and right away he's in trouble. Rockies have 1st and 3rd, nobody out in the 7th. So Puig walks for the second time, and with 2 out, it'll be Grandal.
Catcher, Yasmani Grandal.
So the Giants will have had plenty of trouble with their bullpen, and it's going to be tested now for 3 innings. Giants lead 2-0. Rockies have first and third. Yasmani Grandal grounded out and flied out. And a strike. Two walks to Puig. The only 2 walks Tillman has given up. 0-1. 0-2. So big Chris Tillman, born in Anaheim, lived in Fountain Valley for a while. 0-2 to Grandal. Puig at first, 2 out, 6th inning, 4-1 Baltimore. Ball 1. With Schoop way out in right field. So with Baltimore coming here, their second baseman against left-hand batters certainly plays the deepest second base position of any team that comes in here all year. But that brings to point what Jim Palmer said before the game. Schoop has the best arm at second base he's ever seen. So he might as well play right field. 1-2. Pop foul. No play. So Matt Wieters going back behind the plate. Tillman now has made 85 pitches. So all of a sudden he's working a little hard. He's made 17 pitches so far in the inning. One and two. And down goes Grandal. So there it is. That's his first strikeout, and it ends the 6th. And at the end of 6, 4-1 Baltimore. The game, Dodgers Padres, and catches showing of Top Gun on Dodger Vision, courtesy of Fandango. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/movies. The Dodgers just brought up Luis Avilan. He's been here before. The left-hander is the fourth Dodger pitcher as we go to the seventh inning. It's been Maeda, Baez, Coleman, and now Luis. We can tell you up north, Colorado first and third, nobody out. Brandon Barnes, their left fielder, hit a little fly ball to shallow left field. Runners had to hold. Now Javier Lopez has come in to face the left-hand center fielder, Charlie Blackmon. First and third, one out, and Lopez strikes Blackmon out. So now 2 outs up there, and Bochy is going to the pen again. Giants trying to hold on to a 2-0 lead in the seventh inning. Kim, Machado, and Davis. And ball one. Kim, the Korean left fielder, doubled to left. They let him swing 3-0, and he flied to left. Last time up, walked, and then Machado came up and hit the 3-run home run. And a strike. 1-1. So far, Chris Tillman has gotten through 6, leading 4-1. And ball 2. Luis Avilan is from Caracas in Venezuela. 6'2", 200-pounder. He'll be 27 at the end of the month. Fastball in there. 2-2. The Braves signed him originally in 2006. So it's Korean night here at Dodger Stadium, and there's an active Korean playing. Hyun-Soo Kim. Still 2-2. Avilan first came up to the big leagues, still in the Braves organization. Then the Braves traded him to the Dodgers. Two and two. Big curveball punched to third, backhanded by Taylor. Long throw, got him. So Taylor makes a good play, and Kim is nipped at first. 1 out, and Machado coming up.
Third baseman number 13, Manny Machado.
Taylor just did on a bounce beat Kim to the bag. Nice play by Adrian Gonzalez. And now here's the big man. A 3-run home run in his last at bat. Like that. Way back up, about 4 rows from the top. And then this beauty in foul ground after backhanding the ball. Somehow dead on the money to first base. 0-1. "19 home runs, 53 runs batted in." Manny Arturo Machado from Miami. Oh, 0-2 the count with 1 out. Foul back. Corey Guerin came in. They brought him in to face DJ LeMahieu. LeMahieu got an infield single. The run scored. The Giants hanging on, leading 2-1. Colorado has first and second, 2 out, and Nolan Arenado at the plate. So a big at bat and a big moment in that game up north. 0-2. Bad swing. Yep. So Machado, who had a couple of bad swings in that at bat, strikes out.
First baseman number 19, Chris Davis.
So 2 down. Davis has struck out twice, fly to center. Talk about driving the elevator from the penthouse with a 3-run home run to the basement. And ball 1. So Arenado up there. Big moment in that game. Giants lead 2-1. All the teams are getting tired now as we slowly work our way to the All-Star break. Four to 1 Baltimore on 8 hits. Dodgers 1 run, 5 hits. The big blow, 3-run home run by Machado. Uppercutted by Davis. 2-1. Nolan Arenado has just hit a 3-run home run. Though the Colorado Rockies have turned it around and now lead the Giants 4-2. And the Giant bullpen can't do the job. 3-1. Bouncer backhanded by Avilan. Good play. And the 3rd out. So welcome back to Luis Avilan, a 1-2-3 inning, and we're heading for the bottom of the 7th. 4-1 Baltimore. Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW center today for exceptional offers or visit SoCalBMW.com. 4-1 in favor of Baltimore, and we're in the bottom of the 7th inning. It'll be Howie Kendrick and then Chris Taylor, and we'll see about the batter for Avilan. Tillman still in there, and ball one. Tillman has now made 87 pitches. So he made 18 in the 6th inning. Missing high with a fastball. 2-0. Kendrick hit back to the box, single to right, and was thrown out trying to steal. 2 balls, no strikes. And ball 3. For 5 2/3 innings, Tillman did not have a walk or a strikeout, and he had both. He walked Puig in the 6th and followed with his only strikeout to Grandal. That's in there. 3-1. No one throwing in the Baltimore bullpen. Tillman, in his 18th start, does not have a complete game. And a mile-high fly ball, but it's playable. So Jones puts it away, and we have 1 down. And Taylor coming up. Justin Turner is going to come out and bat for Avilan. Chris Hatcher gets up in the Dodger bullpen. So the Dodgers ready to use their 5th pitcher when we get to the 8th inning. Taylor a single to right, fly to right. 0-1. Chris, playing third base tonight, has done a fine job giving Justin Turner a rest, and now Turner on deck to pinch hit. One ball and 1 strike. The Colorado down 2-0. Now lead the Giants 4-2. A big 3-run home run by Nolan Arenado. That's driven to right in his tracks almost, Trumbo. For the Giants, they're trying to figure out what to do with Arenado, and the Dodgers have decided that they're going to change. Will Venable will come out and bat instead of Turner. So Venable checking in. By the way, talking about Arenado, he has played 11 games plus tonight against the Giants. He has 21 runs batted in against San Francisco. They just can't get him out. And a strike to Venable. Oh and 1 to Will. 2 out. 7th inning. 4-1 Dodgers. Venable started last night. He had pretty good numbers, hitting about .365 against Giovanni Gallardo. Brad Brock begins to loosen up. We have some very fine relievers in this series. Adam Libator has an earned run average of 0.6. Zach Britton, who's the closer for Baltimore, 0.8. Then Brad Brock, who is loosening up, an ERA of 1, and Kenley Jansen with an ERA of 1.3. Still 1-2 to Will Venable. 2 out. Dodgers have had 2 singles since the 2nd inning. Fastball driven to left, carrying well down the line as it goes foul. So Venable back to try it again. In the ball game, the Dodgers in the 1st inning, Seager double to left. He's hitting 18 straight. Gonzalez single to left to get him home. 2nd inning, Baltimore had Trumbo walk, Wieters single, and on a force play, Trumbo scored. Then Machado hit that 3-run home run. And Venable, down he goes, and that's the inning. So through 7, it's Baltimore 4 and the Dodgers 1. Inning 4-1 Baltimore. Tomorrow a 12-10 game. Kevin Gausman, a young right-hander. Baltimore very high on him, despite the fact he has a record of 1-5. And the Dodgers counter with the veteran Bud Norris, who was absolutely brilliant the last time that he pitched, when he went to the mound really as a stranger and struck out 8. He had a brilliant night, and that was against the Rockies. So Chris Hatcher becomes the 5th Dodger pitcher. Maeda, Baez, Coleman, Avilan, and now Chris. Chris Tillman, by the way, who pitched 7, has now made 100 pitches. Though in the 8th inning, it will be Trumbo, Wieters, and Schoop. And Tillman certainly doesn't look like he's ready to throw in the towel. And promptly a line drive. Not quite sure. Did he catch it? Yep, it's the third base umpire, Mark Carlson. Sinking line drive to left. Another one of those tough plays with the lights. And Kendrick made the play. Well, they're checking now in the Baltimore bullpen. Let's take another look. Close, wasn't it? But Mark Carlson, the third base umpire, had a good line on it. However, I think Baltimore is going to ask for a review. So timeout.
The call on the field is under review.
They'll review that sinking line drive to left. It looks awfully close. It's the thickness of a baseball finger, really. Extremely tough. Every time you look at it, you hear the crowd groan from one side to the other. 1 minute it looks like a catch. Another time it looks like he might have short hopped it. We can tell you the paid attendance is 45,000 373. Well, there's one shot where it actually looks like he trapped it. All the others look like he caught it. Howie, a very good-natured soul. You'd like him. Smiles easily. We'll see if he's smiling when they review this. Buck Showalter is not going to smile one way or another. All right, what's the call, fellas? Safe. Base hit. All right. Well, it's not Howie's call to say whether he caught it or not. And now Trumbo is going to go out for a pinch runner. The Hatcher gives up the single. Matt Wieters will come up, and Joey Rickard, who played left field last night, is running. Rickard in last night's game bat 8th and was 1 for 3. So here's Wieters, 2 singles, grounded out, 2 for 3. 4 runs, 9 hits for Baltimore, 1 run, 5 hits for the Dodgers. Couple of streaks on the line, a +5 for the Dodgers and a -5 for Baltimore. What's new up north? Colorado leading 4-2. By the way, we also get word now the Orioles have 2 newly named All-Stars, and they're waiting in the bullpen. Brad Brach and Zad Britton. We'll probably see them in the 8th and the 9th. Wieters, Machado, and Trumbo have also been named as All-Stars. And that gets away. And going to second base is Rickard, and holds on. So we'll have to take another look at that. So will the official score. It's going to bounce, hit the plate, and it'll be a wild pitch. So Hatcher gives up a base hit, then the wild pitch, and a 1-ball, no-strike count to Matt Wieters. 1-1. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 8th inning, it'll be the top of the order. Utley, Seager, Thompson. Trace Thompson 0 for 3, but he made that great play in the first inning. 1-1. Hatcher is in his 32nd game. Two balls and 1 strike. Wieters, the big catcher, an all-star, trying to pick up his man. Baltimore has played 4 previous games at Dodger Stadium and have lost all 4. So they have a somewhat comfortable 4-1 lead right now, but they'd like to add to it. Machado with that 3-run home run gave them the big push. 2-1. Fouled away. Hatcher throwing hard, 97 on that. Maeda started, went 4 innings, then Baez, then Coleman, Avilan, and now Hatcher. Meanwhile, Chris Tillman has made 100 pitches through 7. 2-2. Fastball didn't quite get around, jammed him. Still 2-2. Top of the 8th inning up at AT&T, 4-2 Colorado. The Rockies at bat. Giants burned in the bullpen. 2-2. Oh, throw into center field, picking up and moving on is Rickard. So an attempted pickoff play, and Rickard advances to third. Remember, he's running for Trumbo, who's single, then the wild pitch, and now the error. Hatcher had the sign from Seager, but threw way off to the right. The Hatcher draws the error. Now a runner at third, nobody out, so the infield has to play up. Wieters, Schoop, and Hardy trying to pick him up. 2-2. On the hands again. Hatcher throwing hard at 96. Wieters has not gotten around. Jammed and fouling him off to the left. Still 2-2. Off speed fouled away. Goes off speed from Hatcher. It dropped from 96 to 87. All right, they hook up again. 2-2. And got him. So the catcher strikes out, one down. Now the batter is Jonathan Schoop, the second baseman. Schoop hit into a force play. That was a pop fly that dropped for an apparent base hit. However, Wieters wasn't sure. He had to hold up, and Puig was able to throw to second base and turn the base hit into a force play. Next time up, Schoop singled. Last time up, lined out to short. Infield is up. And a strike. Schoop came into the game a .300 hitter. On deck, J.J. Hardy. They check, no swing. 1 ball and 1 strike. Hatcher working hard to keep it 4-1. Baltimore would like to add to that. Big battle with Wieters, and Chris won that one. Rickard down the line from third. 1 out in the 8th. Almost hit him, or did it? Yeah, I think it did. So Schoop hit by the pitch, slowly walking down to first.
Shortstop number 2, J.J. Hardy.
Just ran in and got him in the ribs. Wow. So Schoop takes it in the ribs, goes to first base. Runners at first and third, and J.J. Hardy coming up. Nolan Reimold is on deck. He would bat for Tillman. Hardy batting .250, hit into a double play, struck out, and then last time up singled. And the strike. So Hatcher trying to fight his way out of a tough situation. The single by Trumbo, Rickard ran for him. Wild pitch sent Rickard to second. The pickoff error sent him to third. Schoop is hit by a pitch. So runners at the corners with one out. One and one. Hatcher making 14 pitches. Schoop at first, Rickard at third, one out. And a strike. Hardy with 2 home runs, 16 runs batted in. In his career, Hardy's about a 260 hitter, right around there. JJ signed by the Brewers back in 2001. Schoop at first, Rickard at third, one out, 1 and 2. And that's strike 3 called. So Hatcher trying to fight his way out of a tough jam, and he's almost done it, striking out 2. And now the batter will be Nolan Reimold. Reimold will be batting for Tillman. First time that we have seen Nolan as Tillman sits back in the dugout. For Baltimore, they had a runner at third. Now that runner is there. They have a runner at first, but 2 out. Reimold is from Greenville, Pennsylvania, lives in Jacksonville. He was a second-round pick out of Bowling Green State University for Baltimore. He has Rickard at third, Schoop at first, and Nolan Gallagher Reimold at the plate. He grew up just outside of Pittsburgh. His mother teaches theology, and his dad is optometrist. Ball 1. He's big, 6'4", 210 pounds. 1-0. One and one. Really haven't seen any good swings against Hatcher from Wieters and Hardy. That wasn't much of a swing from Reimold. One and one. And foul down the line, 1 and 2. Nolan has a brother, John, who plays professional basketball in Luxembourg. A hotbed for basketball, I guess. One ball and 2 strikes. Well, the Giants are letting their game get away. Nick Hundley has just singled in a run. Colorado still batting, and they're leading 5-2. One and 2. Fastball at 97, but missed. 2-2 the count. Reimold hitting .279. He has 4 home runs, 11 runs batted in. Two and two. And ball 3. The Hatcher just missing, and he goes all the way. And the leadoff man, Adam Jones, waiting on deck. I think Roberts thought that might have been strike 3. So 3 and 2 with 2 down. Scopes going from first. Rickard at third. 4-1 Baltimore. Top of the 8th. Breaking ball popped in the air. Coming back after it is Grandal and makes the catch. So a big out, and Hatcher did a high wire rack, and he got away with it. No runs, 1 hit, an error, 2 left, and we're going to the bottom of the 8th. 4-1 Baltimore. Trumbo stays in the game in right field, and coming in to do some pitching will be Brad Brock. Brad's from Freehold, New Jersey, but lives in Nashville. Went to school at Monmouth University, and he was originally drafted in the 42nd round by the Padres back in 2008. All you have to need to know about him is look at his earned run average. It's 1.01. His brother was a 10th round pick by Cleveland. And ball 1 to the leadoff man, Chase Utley. By the way, for Buck Showalter, a very tough series. Even though they're winning tonight, they are 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position. Seager waiting on deck. That's a strike. And looking at Brock, he is 5-1 with that brilliant earned run average of 1. 13 walks, 50 strikeouts, and in about 45 innings, only 23 hits. 2-1. Check swing and look, swing, says Mark Carlson. 2-2 the count to Chase Utley. 4-1 in favor of Baltimore. Giants now being pushed around. They're losing 6-2 to Colorado. Fastball. So that takes care of Utley. 95. One out in the 8th, and Corey Seager. Seager came up in the first inning and doubled to left to extend his hitting streak to 18. Since then, grounded to second and flied to left. Corey hitting .305, 17 home runs, 41 runs batted in. Brock has a lot of pitches. First of all, good fastball. That was a slider. He also has a splitter. You're going to get that four-seamer from him about 60% of the time, they say. That's the way he pitched last year. 1-1. Brock works quickly and he attacks the bottom half of the strike zone. Throws across his body a little, kind of herky-jerk. Hard to pick up the ball. High foul, out of play. Well, up at AT&T Park, Rockies 7, Giants 2. One ball and two strike. And remember, that was the game with Bumgarner. I think most people said, oh, well, the way Colorado's playing and Bumgarner's going to pitch. And down goes Seager. So Brock, a wonderful pitcher, especially when you haven't seen him before. So he faces two hitters, strikes him out. Now he gets Trayce Thompson. His wife is a songwriter. Has an album out. Trayce Thompson, 3 ground balls, 0 for 3. Fouled away. His wife's name is Jean Cherry. Her album is called Around. How tough really is Brock? Well, we talked about his delivery, and you only see him usually for 1 inning. And he's very, very tough to read. 0-2. Right-hand batters all year have 7 hits against him. In fact, the opposition right-handers against Brock are hitting less than 100. 0.86. 0-2. Trayce just did get the bat on that thing. 0-2. Four runs, 9 hits for Baltimore, 1 run, 5 hits for the Dodgers, who really have 3 singles since they scored in the first inning. Wow, what a performance. So Brock comes in and strikes out the side. And we're heading to the 9th inning, 4-1 Baltimore. Hi, guys.
Oh my God, it's
Live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day, live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and so much more. Download MLB.com at-bat. That's the #1 app for live baseball on your phone and tablet. Well, the brilliant bullpen for Baltimore, very impressive. They bring in Brock, and he strikes out the Dodgers on 13 pitches, taking care of Utley, Seager, and Thompson. Chris Hatcher now will go against the top of the Baltimore lineup, Adam Jones, Hyun-Soo Kim, and then Manny Machado. For the Orioles, one of the big things would have to do with their bullpen. The bullpen wins a lot of games, #1 in the American League. The bullpen has won 20 games. Little ground ball to Seager. Though Jones doesn't hang around, goes 2 for 5, and we have 1 out, top of the 9th. Now Kim, the left fielder, doubled, flied to left, walked, grounded out. The bullpen for Baltimore has a save rate 73% of the opportunities. And a strike. Chris Tillman, who began the game with a record of 10-2, could be the winning pitcher. Remember, 2 years ago, Chris Tillman had won 11 at the All-Star break, and he has a shot at doing that tonight. The top winners in the American League, Chris Sale has 14, J.A. Happ 11, Tillman might get the 11, Rick Porcello and Danny Salazar have won 10. 2-1. They're in the bottom of the 8th inning in San Francisco. Rockies 7, Giants 2. Ninth inning, 4-1. Baltimore 1 out. Fouled away. Hatcher struggled in the 8th inning. Gave up a base hit, committed a wild pitch, threw an error, hit a batter, and he still got out of the inning without allowing a run. As we told you, Baltimore 1 for 11 with runners in scoring position, but they are winning 4-1. 2-2. Fastball hit to deep left, but going foul. The Orioles have had at least 1 hit in every inning but the 7th. That's the only inning they went quietly. Dodgers have had a hit in only 3 innings. The 1st, the 2nd, and the 5th. Good off-speed pitch, and down he goes. So Kim walks away having struck out, and the batter is the big man, the difference in the game, Manny Machado. He lost an extra base hit and a run batted in on a sensational catch by Trayce Thompson. Then they walked him intentionally, and then he came up with 2 on and hit a 3-run home run. So it is 4-1 Baltimore. 2 out, top of the 9th. Strike. When the Dodgers come up in the bottom of the 9th, they have Gonzalez, Puig, and Grandal. And if anybody gets on, Kendrick. Fastball driven to right field. Puig gone back on the track in front of the bullpen to make the catch. All right, Baltimore goes out in order, and we come to the bottom of the 9th inning. 4-1 Orioles. Standing bullpen, and we're looking at the 1-2 punch. We saw Brack work the 8th inning and strike out the side. Now we'll see Zach Britton, and look at his earned run average, 0.8. He's a big left-hander, 6'3", 195. He was born in nearby Panorama City, but he lives in Weatherford, Texas. Originally a third-round pick by Baltimore out of high school. Left-handed all the way. And he comes in and goes to work on Gonzalez, Puig, and Grandal. Show you about the bullpens for the Giants. Madison Bumgarner went 6 innings and did not allow a run. The Giant bullpen worked 2 innings and allowed 7 runs. And a strike to Gonzalez, who singled a lab, grounded out, flied to lab, 1 for 3. Fastball missed. Hatcher wound up making 31 pitches. And a bouncer up the middle. Scope can't get it. And Gonzalez opens up the 9th inning with a base hit. So Adrian goes 2 for 4. And that'll bring up Yasiel Puig. Justin Turner comes out on deck. Remember, he was out there once before. And then they pulled him back for Venable. In looking at Britton, with a record of 2-1 and that great earned run average of 0.8, he has allowed 1 home run. He has walked 8 and struck out 41. So 5-1. Basically from Britton, fastball, slider, and a change. Good sinking fastball as well. And they say when it is working, his slider is the strikeout pitch. His sinker is exceptional, and he learned it from Scotty McGregor. That's a look at a 98-mile-an-hour sinking fastball. 1 ball and 1 strike. And ball 2. That's that 98-mile-an-hour fastball. That's the four-seamer. The other one that sinks is around 90 to 92. 2-1 the count to Yasiel Puig. 4-1 Baltimore, bottom of the ninth. And low again. And at 99. With that sinker, if he gets it in the strike zone, he gets a lot of ground balls. Buck Showalter talking to the bullpen. In one. Well, you don't see many left-handers throwing 97, 98. He's big enough to throw hard. 6'3", 195. So the Dodgers have sent 5 men against this great Baltimore bullpen. 4 of them have struck out. Adrian Gonzalez has a base hit. So 1 out in the ninth.
Number 10, Justin Turner.
Justin Turner now checking in, batting for Grandal. Turner 3 for 5 coming off the bench. Over the year, 11 home runs, 41 runs batted in. And a strike. Boy, it must be tough to come off the bench. You got a guy throwing 98. It's not a two-seam grip. It's a sinker grip. And that's what he employs. 0-1. Boy, everything is down. 0-2. And hitting 99. Wow. Britton at one time was a starting pitcher, but boy, he really found a home in the Baltimore bullpen. And one of the things with a high fly ball to deep right field, Rickard, however, on the track, and one-handed banging into the wall. So Turner came very close. A long fly ball out to right field.
Left fielder number 47, Howie
So
Kendrick.
2 down, and Howie Kendrick coming up. Rickard making a good play and then staggered against the wall. So 2 down and Kendrick coming up. The thing about left-hander Britton, when he was a starting pitcher, he was always concerned about the length of the game. Now that he has 1 inning to pitch, he comes in and can really move it. He was throwing 92, 93 as a starting pitcher and went into the bullpen. He's gotten it up 97. We've seen him hit 98 tonight. So here's Kendrick, 2 out, Gonzalez at first, 4-1 Baltimore, and a strike. From the looks of things, the Dodgers will not lose a game, but they're also not going to gain. Manny Machado's home run wrecked what might have been a win. The Giants, meanwhile, are losing 7-2 in the bottom of the 8th inning. Bud Norris tomorrow against Kevin Gausman. One and two. Trace Thompson, Corey Seager looking at what appears to be the end of the game. How about a throw for those 2 kids right behind them? that close to the big leaguers. 1-2. 2-2. We had 45,373 tonight. Tomorrow is a 12-10 game, so maybe you can come over and spend lunchtime with us. Two and two. Fastball takes care of him. Wow, what a performance. In 2 innings, the Baltimore bullpen strikes out 5. Add to that the hitting ability of Manny Machado, and Baltimore wins it 4-1. 4 runs, 9 hits for the Birds. 1 run, 6 hits for the Dodgers. The player of the game, one swing of the bat by Manny Machado, who buried it high up in the pavilion, and that was enough to beat the Dodgers. So tomorrow at 12:10, hope your little ones might be out here with us as the Dodgers and the Orioles conclude the series, and we'll talk to you then. Till then, wishing you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.